those critics complaining about. Alien goo slash symbiotes come from outer space and with the aim to take over the planet. And one guy stands in the way of this happening with the help of alien goo named Venom. This is Venom and I'm reviewing it. Let's get creepy. Okay, so Venom is one of the latest superhero, not so superhero, anti-superhero, but not really though, movies that are out right now. And basically, I liked it. For the most part, you know, just to put this in context, there was a lot of criticism by critics, professional critics, who really kind of panned the movie. I don't know what they were expecting, maybe other fans kind of panned it too, I guess a little bit. And I'm not sure what people were expecting when they went into it, but I was actually very pleased with it. And I'm going to tell you why, with some pros and cons. Mainly pros, but there were some cons. Because it wasn't a perfect movie, but no movie's perfect. Okay, so one of the pros of this film, for me, was the plot line. The source material of this is a comic book. If you're not familiar with the comic books, I'm not going to go into it for you because that's a whole other thing. I don't need nobody in my comments telling me you got that one line from issue 25, universe 3 wrong or something. And I actually really enjoy the plot line of this because it was very simple and straightforward. Good versus evil in a way, in the sense of mankind may be obliterated. So that's the good side. You know, you have this comic book straightforward plot, but also connected somewhat to very real world issues and relevancy. And it wasn't convoluted. You would like this because it's a very straightforward thing, which I think we need more of, because you don't need to throw the whole kitchen sink into any movie, and especially not a superhero film. It didn't feel like a very long movie, and that's okay. You know, it didn't feel like it needed to take a whole hour and a half to establish who Eddie Brock was and his motivation and what he did when he was 2 years old. And I liked the pacing of this film. If you're someone who if you're kind of one of those people who after about an hour and a half, you're kind of looking around like, I'm still in the theater and we haven't even gotten to the second act. What's good? Then you will like this film. Another pro was the acting. The acting. And I think Tom Hardy with this with the character of Eddie Brock did that. There were moments where he played up the humor. There were other moments where he played up the, you know, investigative journalist, and he put on this character that you liked. You know, he put on this character that was relatable, that, you know, you got to know him fairly quickly. In a way, it was kind of personable, and I think it really worked for this movie. He wasn't a depressing character, because sometimes you can get very brooding type characters when it comes to superhero films, when it comes to films in general sometimes, because they feel like, you know, a character has to go through emotional turmoil for you to be relating to them. And I don't always think that's the case. I mean, he went through stuff, but it was in a way that I don't want to say it was sitcom-y, but it was relatable without dragging down the plot in this weird emotional manipulation rabbit hole that some plot lines can fall into when they're really trying to make you feel the struggle of a character. Our villain in the movie, played by Riz Ahmed, Carlton Drake, I liked him in this, and I think when you have a straightforward film like this, you need someone who's not necessarily going to chew the scenery as the villain, and he did it in such a way that was very subtle. And, you know, yay for diversity. He's a man of color, which was awesome. Another pro was, I think, the script, the dialogue in this film was quality. Like, I mean, there were times when I laughed out loud. There were other times when, you know, scenes resonated when they were played for drama. There were other times when the action and the dialogue, you know, it just worked. The lines worked. What the characters were saying made sense. It wasn't just to move the plot forward. It was actually like, this is what these type of characters, these type of people would say in these, you know, moments. Not just, let me say this because the audience needs to know that. And one of the things I really appreciated is about this movie, and this may be just like the deeper aspect of it, was the role of journalism in this plot line. The role of Eddie as a journalist, as someone who digs for the truth, constantly wanting to expose the villains of the world and support the little guy, like the homeless and the poor and things of that nature. And I wasn't expecting that, really. I don't know, maybe it was the journalist in me, because that's my profession and whatnot, that I just really appreciated that. And I think it has some relevancy to today's world, where we have it at a time where the profession of journalism, the profession of media, is very much vilified, right? It's seen as a nuisance by some, and often it's usually vilified by people who don't want certain information to get to the public. Not saying that all journalists and news things are created the same, or that all of them serve good purposes, not at all. But there are, and I think Eddie's character represented that, there are, you know, those types that dig for that truth. And although the film said, you know, the world has enough heroes, I thought it was, I don't want to say ironic, because people always use ironic wrong, but maybe I'm using it right. I thought it was ironic that he was a hero in a way. Somehow, that messaging was in the film. And I was like, whoa, in the midst of all of this humor and action and gross stuff occasionally with Venom eating people, they were able to kind of convey that messaging. And I was like, yes, there are cons in this film, but the cons are contextual. I'm going to say they're cons because I'm thinking about not just the scope of myself, but of other people who might watch this film and the things they may look for, or the things we've become accustomed to that may make it so that one may look at this in a negative way. And those are just two. There's two cons. One con is that despite this being 2018 and whatnot, it felt a little dated, the film. And it actually runs into my pros for the film, and the fact that it was a very straightforward plot. It was hero, villain, superhero, or whatever, plot line, big bad scene, and you know, that's that. And that kind of superhero thing is kind of very 90s, 2000s, right? You know, like the early Fantastic Fours and other films before we started getting a little bit more of the, you know, the Iron Man and the Captain America, which were these epics of, you know. And I think what the studio did with this film is that they told a more straightforward plot and wasn't trying to make this large, big, epic thing, but a very straightforward plot. And I think you may look at that as a con if you're trying to go into this film thinking you're getting another Iron Man or a Captain America saga, which it was not. It wasn't that, but that's not a bad thing. I got 90s, 2000s superhero film vibes from this film, but I don't think that's bad. I watch 80s horror movies all the time, way more sometimes than I watch newer horror films. So just because something seems a little dated doesn't mean it's a negative. But I put it under cons because this may be an issue for another viewer. And the second con really just connects to the first con of, once again, it was a small cast. You know, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a huge crowds of people when the buildings can start falling and stuff like that, which happens in, you know, larger epic type films. It was very much, you know, about 6 or 7 people who were main characters. Things tended to happen in offices, in regular buildings, in dark alleys with a lot of people not around. It wasn't some huge thing where everyone knew that there were superheroes and everyone's like, look, Ma, it's a bird, it's a plane. That's Superman. It's an, I don't want to say it's an intimate superhero film, but it is sort of intimate. It had intimate vibe. And if that's not your jam, you may not like it. So, is the movie Stab approved? Yes. Venom is Stab approved. I think you will enjoy this film. It had good dialogue, good characters. I think it sets it up for sequels in a very good way. It's a fun time at the movies. That's it. It may not be the next great American film or something like that, but I don't think it was aiming to be. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. And I think you will enjoy it too. So, did you watch Venom? What were your thoughts? Comment down below. Let me know what you think. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.